All right. This is the second iteration. This is episode what number, Luke?
234.
And we have Dr. Kelly Henry coming in for his second round of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Welcome to our show.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it. So I did so bad the first go around. You gave me a second chance. I think that's how this works. Is that what happened?
Everyone gets a second chance.
Well, I appreciate it.
Actually, we realized how great of a job you're doing supporting the chiropractic profession, and we wanted to feature you again because we know that you're doing great work and teaching people some lost arts of customer service, and you're opening up people's perception of what they can do to really help their business right now. And I think that goes across the board, not just chiropractic related, but it goes across the board to all businesses. So anybody watching this episode is going to get some takeaways when it comes to actually working in their local communities and doing great work. And you being a chiropractor, 19 years, you know what it's like to grow a business, to bring on people and train them, and to build success for not only yourself, but other people. So let's just jump right into the project that you're on right now. And I'll let you take the lead on this one.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jim. Yeah, I'm fully involved in helping businesses, like you said, get a grasp on the lost art of customer service and improving that as a way to grow and benefit and make their business more successful. When I first retired back in 2018, I was, and when we did our first interview, I was solely working with chiropractors, really in practice management. Customer service was part of what I was teaching them. And then in 2019, I made a shift, pivoted a little bit, decided to niche down into the customer service realm. That's what I was going to teach and be very exclusive in teaching and coaching and consulting on. And then I was going to broaden my reach to who I worked with. So outside of chiropractors, still work with chiropractors, but really any service-based industry is fair game for me to work with. So I've recently just launched my first book, Define and Deliver Exceptional Customer Service. Actually, it launched just last week. So I'm excited about that. Just a very simple, simplistic book that has great information, principles, rules, actions that chiropractors or other business owners can grasp onto, really implement immediately, and see a dramatic effect in their perception of customer service, which obviously will have an effect on the success of their business.
If people want to go preemptively jump on this and buy it and review it for you, how do they do that right now?
You can go to my website, drkellyhenry.com. So drkellyhenry.com. There's a big picture of the book on the top of the website. Just click on that. It'll take you to an Amazon, and you can order from Amazon.
Yeah, I think that's a really good thing to do on these interviews, is to preemptively close people before the end, because if you don't make it all the way to the end, we'll ask you again where people can go for your book. But I think it's really cool that people can jump in right now and go over to your page and download the book or purchase the book and give a review right away. So just want to stoke the fire a little bit for you.
I appreciate that. And it's an easy read. It's a simple read. It's only about 150 pages long, not a lot of fluff. That's not my personality. I just got to the point, gave some great information. And like I mentioned, it's simple stuff that if you'll grab a business owner, a chiropractor, whoever's listening, will grab hold of it and start implementing it, can make a huge difference in their business.
So I know it's been quite a while since we last had a chat, and we just kind of want to get caught up to speed. Has anything not gone how you expected it to recently? And if so, what have you learned from it?
Yeah, been several things that go up to expectations, and kind of all of 2020 for all of us, probably things didn't go, at least part of things didn't go to expectations. Just getting the word out and marketing has been an interesting challenge for me. There's a lot of theories and a lot of ways you can market, and I've read and studied and done many things. And the line of business I'm in now, certain things work, certain don't, obviously. And that's true for any business, obviously. So I've had to balance some things out and kind tried some things and they didn't work and pivoted to new things. So it's been interesting. Doing a lot of emailing right now. Email is still alive. So if people don't believe that, I would disagree with them. Email is still alive and still works quite well. And that's what's helping me a lot. Done network marketing, LinkedIn marketing, social media, the whole gamut. And so we're just narrowing down what really works for me right now and taking hold of that.
Yeah, I think you're so spot on. We've all seen the shift. We've all experienced something within our personal lives, our communities, our businesses. And I think that that's really the part of who we are right now and who we were in 2020. And I think we have to take what we've learned and move forward with all of that information and all those experiences and shift to a better version. I really believe, after getting to know you over the past couple of years, that the power of one is so essential to something like you're doing. Getting one good customer with one good experience is going to change the trajectory of the next referral for you. And it's a lot like the chiropractic business. Once you get one good person and you learn how to nurture that person and take care of them, it has an effect on that community. It has an effect on that family. And I think that that's really what you have the potential to do with what you're doing right now, is to learn from what didn't go right, but to keep on going with proper marketing etiquette and learning what can work. And it's that one thing that will eventually turn into the major thing that could change the whole trajectory of this agenda that you're on and this business that you're a part of. So I think that being somewhat vulnerable on these interviews is a part that makes us more real than ever. And it's something that we can't really script for, things not going well. So it's important sometimes to have those tough conversations. So I appreciate your willingness to share.
Hey, not a problem. Not everything's rosy and sugar-coated, unicorns. Life is difficult at times. And being an entrepreneur and in business, as you guys know, it's, there's some tough spots, there's some low spots. And fortunately for me, and I'm sure you guys have somewhat of the same attitude, is it's not if I'm going to be successful with this, it's when. And I'd never look at anything as failure as final. I look as failure as feedback. So, okay, this didn't work. Well, that's all right. I learned from that. What can I do different? What can I do different in that arena? Or maybe I need to shift and pivot from that, from that marketing scheme or whatever the case may be. But I just collect feedback, learn, pivot, more intelligently move forward from the issues or the problems or the failure I had. And again, I'm not going to quit, because it's not if, it's always when I'm going to make this thing work and be more successful.
And I think that that's a really important thing to, spend some time with, because when you had conversations with me off camera, I was really raw. And I'm like, look, man, you don't want to do that. You want to do this. And if you think of it about this way, it's not going to go the direction you want it to go. So I was very open book to you and very honest with you about what I see as the trends in the profession and how I saw what you're going into wanting to accomplish. And maybe I gave you some insight that would be helpful, but I was really honest with you.
Absolutely. That's the thing I love about you, Jim, is you don't sugarcoat things. Just tell it like it is. And that I appreciate that. That's how I like it. And to me, that's what helps the most.
Well, I know I didn't have anything to gain from it except for helping you. And if I could help people with honesty, I think that that's something that we all need to do a little bit better.
Absolutely.
And we all can support each other with at least a good word and a little bit of passion. So that's what I had to offer to you. Let's turn this conversation back a little bit more to chiropractic.
All right.
And this is something I'm really passionate about, is how can we make the profession better? But what have you seen over the past decade as to been the trend that you've seen as the most important thing to happen for chiropractic?
Well, there's a huge trend of practice integration, bringing in obviously physical therapists, but, DOs or nurse practitioners or those items. And I feel like that's a good thing. As long as the chiropractic philosophy and foundation is center in that office. So some of those offices are maybe not quite as solid on that, but I don't mind that integration. In my practices, I always talk to my patients about health, and that, my adjustment wasn't going to make them completely healthy. That's just not how it works. It's a piece of helping them regain health and stay in health and influencing their nervous system to be better, to have better health. But I wasn't the end all to be all. So, I always communicated that. And so to me, that's something that these integrated clinics are really good at, that, hey, we can adjust you and we want to make you healthy through the spinal adjustment. But, sometimes you have a high blood pressure, or you've torn a rotator cuff, or, not that I'm advocating medications or those type of things, but it's okay to get checked out by another practitioner. And why not have that benefit the chiropractor or the particular clinic? So to me, I feel like that's a good trend, as long as that chiropractic foundation stays center in those clinics.
Yeah. And I think that now we're learning that a team, whether it's a team that puts on a production or a team that has goes out and plays a sport, like, you have to have each person that does their specialty. And I think that has really had an influence on chiropractic, as they realize that there's a team of people that take care of the human body, and the chiropractor is the vitalist, the chiropractor is the health lane. And I think that there are opportunities to do co-management for people's cases. And I think that that's what people learned a long time ago when it became like a PI case. Well, you had to co-manage a case with some other practitioners in order to get a positive outcome for somebody that was severely injured. And I think that that's the part that we have to come back to, is to realize that people don't come in with the classic slip and fall. People come in with bodies that aren't eating right. They're under massive amounts of stress. They're super toxic. They're in metabolic syndrome. They're dealing with cardiovascular conditions. They're dealing with diabetic conditions. They're dealing with this long laundry list of things that they're need to focus on. And one of those components is chiropractic. My only concern moving forward into that direction is, I'm just concerned that the cupboard is a little bare for actual people to facilitate those teams and to understand the chiropractic philosophies is when they join those teams. And it's hard to change the philosophy of a medical minded person into a chiropractic branded facility when they're indoctrinated with that knowledge of, you are a medical minded practitioner. So to bring somebody out of a cupboard and say, you're going to come work on our team, I think is a huge part of education that needs to happen in order to integrate those types of practitioners successfully.
I agree. So, and it's, I used to tell my patients that, you need a chiropractor. Obviously, you need a dentist, you need an orthopedic doctor, an oncologist, whatever the case may be. They all fit their different pieces and specialty. There's nothing wrong with that. So I'm a piece of the puzzle. Like you mentioned, that's, that teamwork, bringing that team under one roof. There's nothing wrong with that.
So maybe you could tell us a little bit about who some of your heroes and mentors are. Who's inspired you to kind of become the person that you are today? They could be living or passed on, of course.
You bet. My chiropractic mentors, I have two of them. I was coached in both their organizations. One of them you all know quite well, Dr. Fred Schofield. He's tremendous mentor to me, and I coached with him for several years, or I don't know how long, but anyways, I coached with him for a time period. And, he's kind of like you, Jim, just doesn't sugarcoat anything. It's just straightforward, gives it to you straight. This is how you need to do it and whatnot. And again, that's what I responded to best. So I thoroughly enjoyed Dr. Schofield and his knowledge and his direction that he helped me steer. Dr. Tom Owens down in Chattanooga, he's since passed on, but he was a tremendous mentor. I worked with his organization, his consulting group for several years. And actually they're the ones that really put me on the proper foundation to create some significant success in my business. But just his his philosophy and his business mindset, and he was one to not sugarcoat, just be very straightforward too. And so those two docs played a huge part in my chiropractic success. A couple success mentors that I've actually never met, but I've listened and read and studied and watched videos on them. Brian Tracy, you may have heard of him. He tremendous sales guru, success guru. Just love his stuff. Tremendous information that I've utilized through the years that, again, has helped me be more successful. And then another one is Grant Cardone. May have heard of him too. In fact, you can see a couple of his books right behind me here. So the 10X Rule and Be Obsessed or Be Average is one of my favorite books, period. Not just his, but any book I've ever read. In fact, I've read it 5 or 6 times. And again, he's one to just say it straight and be very straightforward on life and be focused and dialed in. And the book I just mentioned, Be Obsessed or Be Average, he explains that you can be obsessed about every area in your life. You don't have to be obsessed just about business to the decline of your family or your relationships or anything else. You can be obsessed about your family and your faith and your business. It's just having that focus at the appropriate times. And I resonated with that book quite well. So.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. And I think some of the people you mentioned as mentors there's a saying that those that get these positions of influence, much responsibility is necessary. And I think that when people realize that when you say like he's a guru and he's done this, and that means that person has to show up that way. And there's a lot of responsibility on the shoulders of Brian Tracy and Fred Schofield that's also a position that people earn. And there's a lot of position that comes along with that and a lot of responsibility to show up the right way and to help people and to live on with that legacy. I mean, when you decide that you're going to be obsessed or be average, you have to really decide that you're going to find things about yourself or what your highest priorities are, and you're going to have to really develop those. And if you don't develop those the way that you want them to, then they'll take over you. And the things that you don't delegate will be the things that you loathe. And if you don't learn what you like to do, then you'll do things that you are not finding value in. And eventually that could go to the chiropractic profession. You might be a better clinic director than a practitioner. And I think that that's a hard conversation for the chiropractors too, is because they look at their colleagues. If they're not out there, doing side postures and toggles, then they're not a real chiropractor. And they kind of like say, hey, you're not a chiro anymore if you're not doing those things. But I think that some people are better suited at running empires of management clinics and teaching others how to be successful. So we always have to think about what does the trench mean and who's in the trenches and how can we make sure that people feel a part of the chiropractic family rather than saying, hey, you do it that way, you're not doing it the right way.
Yeah, I agree. And that's something that, that I struggled with. Speaking of, figuring out, what I was good at and what I really needed to focus on. I was like a lot of chiropractors. I chased the shiny new object, the shiny new equipment, the shiny new procedure, the shiny new supplement, and finally when I, through some coaching and some serious thought, I finally figured out that, hey, this is what I need to narrow down into. This is what I'm good at. I'm not the best at decompression. I'm not the best at trying to sell the weight loss, but I'm really good at communicating subluxation, spinal health, reoccurring adjustments, and just dialed into that. And that's when my practice exploded, when I finally dialed into what I was good at and stayed true to it.
So I know we kind of touched on this topic earlier, but I kind of want to take a bit of a deeper dive with you, if that's okay.
Absolutely, Luke.
So in the past year, 2020, we all had to make lots of changes. What are some of the things specifically that used to work for you, but lately you've had to pivot away from them because it just wasn't working the same way? Do you have any specific examples?
I do. marketing has been, we already talked about this a little bit, has been a little more of a challenge, but particularly to your question is, I can market to the whole United States. Well, I didn't take into account that there's a lot of businesses that had to slow down, shut down, and were subject to their state's government or whatnot for COVID restrictions. And so had to dial things back and then be very careful and very specific who I was marketing to. Because the last thing you want to do is market to a business and have to get a message from them, hey, I'm shut down, I can't do anything. That just breaks your heart, and it's terrible to do, but had to be very careful with that. It wasn't just broad marketing anymore. We needed to be careful and be a little more diligent in who we were marketing to, and being a little more specific that way.
And how do you suggest that other marketers niche down their targeting right now? Like, have you learned any tricks or tips you could pass on to our listeners who might be struggling with the same problem?
There's a lot of different ways. We used LinkedIn pretty effectively for this, where we could narrow down searches. LinkedIn has specific parameters that you can dial into to get those parameters down where you're going to be. You should be pretty well within the niche you want, but also being careful of if you're trying to avoid a city or a state or an industry in that particular area that doesn't work. So LinkedIn worked quite well for me in that regard.
And you said earlier on before we jumped on here that you've been doing quite a bit of podcasting and you've been a guest on other people's shows. How has that helped you?
Several ways. Obviously, spreading the word, being on different shows. In fact, I've been on since about Thanksgiving, and I've been on 33 shows, I guess, somewhere around that neighborhood. So quite a bit. Just the exposure has been great. Some of the shows had bigger audiences, some didn't really matter. For me, I'm always wanted to add some value, give some value. So this is certainly a platform that I can do that on. I love the conversational style of podcasts where it's not me just spewing, my information. I've done a lot of talks to like Rotary clubs, service clubs in the Dallas area where I live over the last year. And, it was okay, but again, it was just spewing my information to an audience that probably wasn't real interested in it. So just didn't feel as effective. So podcast fills that for me where I feel like I'm being more effective and then being more conversational in it. And then also, just being real here, it's, when you do 30 some podcasts, it gives you a lot of confidence in speaking your information. And so I can, I've just noticed my confidence level go up dramatically. So that's obviously been a great factor that has been, I guess I knew that in the back of my mind, but seeing it now as I'm going through it has been a tremendous benefit for me.
Well, as you went through that journey of being on 30 different shows over the past couple months here, what would be some of your takeaways to other people why I guess podcast medium is growing so quickly and why other people should be starting their own, number one, but why it's so important to build that larger community? Because as we noticed, as you've mentioned a couple times, people's businesses have not all across the board grown since this pandemic. But I think that a lot of people are moving more quickly into the digital space. And these types of situations are going to be more important going into the rest of this year. So I guess talk a little bit about the format of podcasting and why you think other people should start investigating that path.
You bet. Well, from a guest standpoint, again, it's just a phenomenal way to get the message out. So, like I mentioned, I could go in front of a Rotary group and talk to about 20 people. Okay, that's great. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But I can get on your podcast or even a lower level podcast that doesn't have a lot of listeners, but they're more likely to have 50 to 100, 200 listeners. So, hey, automatically your influence is spread. From being a podcaster standpoint, it's so easy. It's so easy to do this. It's so easy to have these conversations that, I don't know why you wouldn't want to do it, but it's also so much easier for your listeners to listen to a podcast while they're driving, while they're working out, while they're, whatever they're doing. It's a whole lot easier than having to watch a video or try to read through something. See a topic you want to hear from this podcast, or you listen to that podcast regularly, boom, there it is. Listen to 15, 20 minutes, half an hour of it while you're, particularly driving or working out. Man, that's easy to do. Two things at once, you get some valuable insight, go from there. So it's just an incredible medium that more people need to explore.
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head. And I really believe that the interview is something in vogue. Like, people are coming back to journalism. People are coming back to paying attention to the story, and people are coming more than ever. They're realizing that they can build lifelong connections with people if they pay attention to them. And seriously, that's what this format provides to people, is it provides them the opportunity to showcase somebody else's story. It gives them the opportunity to showcase somebody else's what they're enthusiastic about. And everybody wants to be seen, and everybody wants to be heard. And that's what I've learned over doing nearly 850 interviews in the past 3 years. I learned that everybody is enthusiastic when they're asked to show up, and when they get a chance to do something that makes them feel featured. And I think that that's so important, because your message is going to help some people. And you said it could be a podcast that not a lot of people listen to, but the person that does that work to produce that show, they feel like they're doing something positive and contribution. Sure. And whether they have 50,000 listeners an episode or 100 listeners an episode, the contribution that they're providing is something that they believe in. And I think that that's what changes the platform, is it's not just a recording anymore. Now we're disseminating this information on multiple platforms. Now we're creating micro content based on this. Now we're giving assets to the people that we're creating shows with, and they're sharing that. So I think that the podcast platform has so much it's so user friendly. Like you mentioned, the end user is the one that benefits. They get a chance to listen to something passively. They can watch it on YouTube. They can listen to it on their favorite streaming platform. So I think that that's something, it's become so user friendly. The market is exploding right now.
Agreed. User friendly. That's what the term I was trying to use. But yeah, user friendly. Like you said, it's just incredibly user friendly.
And it gets people something to talk about. And I think that when you're saying, hey man, I'm getting featured on this person's show, that shows your position in the marketplace too. And I think that that's something really cool. I'll actually have to talk to you off camera and find out how you positioned yourself to so many shows, because I want to be featured on 30 shows too.
Absolutely. I'll give you the scoop.
give me no sugarcoating.
So this next one is less of a business question, more of a personal question. What would be one thing about yourself that you would improve if you could, and why?
Yeah, I've struggled for really my adult life of just keeping confidence up and staying positive. Just being real. And I can control it a lot better now, but and I suspect that most everybody maybe has at least a little bit of this, where you have your down moments and whatnot, but it's just something that, I recognize it. I know what to do about it. So I don't necessarily keep myself from dipping down, but the downs aren't as down, and I get myself going in the right direction a lot quicker now. But it's I won't say a daily struggle, but it's a weekly struggle. That's something I need to stay on top of and stay very focused on, eliminating, that kind of that downward spiral, because it can happen very quickly if I allow it to.
What are some of your strategies that you use to curb that?
I read daily. So I'm either reading inspirational, informational, motivational information. So that helps tremendously. Affirmations, it's probably, if there was one thing that I say that helps me the most, it's affirmations. And just keeping those running through my mind, particularly when I feel like I'm having a down moment, just running those affirmations through my mind and building myself back up. That's been hugely important for me. Listening to inspirational, motivational items, podcasts, audiobooks, whatever the case may be. And then I'm man of faith, so certainly my prayer time and spending time in the Word helps tremendously too, and focusing on that. So those strategies together have helped me tremendously. And again, it's still there, but to minimize it is what I've been able to do.
I guess this is a question that we didn't prepare for you, but it takes me to that like next follow-up is time management. I know that you are managing so much in your personal life. How do you block that? And how do you find production time? And how do you find like this downtime? And how do you actually like time manage?
Get up early is one of the keys. Getting up early, getting my prayer and my word time, and then my reading time. That's all done first thing in the morning. Hit the gym, do my workout every day, get cleaned up, and then I'm much more productive in the morning. So I get all that out of the way by 7:30, 8 a.m. and then hit the business realm. So, and I'll be productive I try to from about 8 till noon or 8 till 2 in the afternoon, because I know after 2 I get lethargic and tired. I'm not as focused. So I try to eliminate anything going on from about 2 to 6 or 7 in the evening. And then in the evening time, 7, 8, 9, I can spend another hour or two doing work and business as I prepare for the next day. But that's how I block my day to really to help me be as productive as I possibly can.
And I think that is the chemistry of life. Is when people find out what their triggers are and how they fall off track and what some of their, challenges are. And then they learn how to stay motivated and structure their time wisely. And I think that a lot of people just don't know how to do that because right now we're hyper distracted. We have 25 apps looking at us every 10 minutes. We have, books that we're supposed to read. We have calls that we're supposed to schedule. We have emails that are coming in and instant messages and text messages. Like, I don't know how anybody gets anything done anymore.
I agree. And I have my moments. I have my squirrel moments probably every day, email or text or whatever the case may be. But I work off a to-do list every day. So the night before, I've got my 3 or 4 top things that I need to get accomplished. And that's what I'm hitting first thing in the morning when I get in front of the computer or where I'm at. Let's get these knocked out, and knowing that that's going to help me not only be more productive, but it's going to help me move forward as far as what I'm trying to accomplish and, goal wise or business wise.
Yeah. And I think that this is a really powerful conversation we're having today, because a lot of the people that are listening to this are chiropractors, and they're like probably thinking, how can I block out my time to be productive in the office? What do I need to do for marketing? How can I grow a business? And back to your first part of the conversation is customer service. How can I perform great customer service and not feel hyper distracted with all this other communication that comes into me? Because there's no guideline. Like if I wanted to send you a message at like 2 a.m., I could send you a message at 2 a.m. and you'll wake up to that. Like I can't tell you how many days I wake up to 20 instant messages on my Facebook Messenger chat. And I'm like, oh gosh, what just happened to me?
That's
but
right.
You also have to be considerate, and you can't be like, oh, I'm not going to respond back to that person the way that I want to be responded to. So now you're time blocking off of 2 hours to send text messages, emails, and instant messages, and now Instagram messages.
Yeah, you're already behind the 8 ball. First thing, you haven't even done anything because you've got 20 messages to take care of. So yeah, I hear you.
And the last thing you want to do is throw a thumbs up to everybody, because you know how that makes you feel on the other side.
That's right. So
I don't send thumbs ever. I have a no thumb policy.
no thumb. I am with you, Luke. I don't. So
Because it translates to some other finger.
Yeah.
yeah.
Touching on the to-do list, another fun thing you can do that I do is I have an accomplishment journal where after I have taken something off the to-do list, I put it in the accomplished list. And what I found is that I'll start with a to-do list that's this big, but somehow I've accomplished this much.
That is an awesome idea. I may have to try that. So I like that.
Yeah, sure.
I use sticky notes. In fact, here's my to-do list right here for today. There's probably 20 things on there, but the top 3 are what those have to get finished before I, in theory, move on to the rest of them. But I like that idea of putting the accomplished list down too. So instead of just scratching it off, so look at what I've actually done.
In our Men of Iron unit, we call that a brag journal. At the end of the day, we write down all the things that we accomplished for that day and we review that stuff. So I think that that's a really cool motivational hack for people that want to find out how they can actually maximize their efforts throughout the day and not feel like they're just like swimming around with like tasks.
Yeah.
I'm that guy. I swim around with tasks all day and I'm like, get away from me. What are you doing? What are you doing? Get away from me.
I changed
I
the
love
name
that.
just because I don't like the word brag.
But I think that this is helpful to people and having these like open conversations about like what gets you going, what your challenges are, how Luke builds massive production, how I feel like I always have things like constantly like coming at me. Like that's a skill set too. Like when you have so much coming at you, how do you like make a priority list?
Well, it's really a question of, and there's a couple books that come to mind that helped me. One is the One Thing, and I can't remember the author, just left me, but that's a great book. And being able to focus on the one thing, it's the 80-20 rule is really what it amounts to. What can I focus my attention on the 20% that is going to create the 80% of the impact on my business or the success of my business? Those are the things that you really need to be focusing on. The vast majority of people, and I'm guilty of this through the years to some degree too, is we focus on the 80% of stuff that only plays 20% of the impact on our success in business. And we need to flip that, really, narrow down, think about, get a better understanding of what are the things that are really going to help me accomplish what I need to accomplish. And then focus specifically on those first and foremost before anything else.
So what would be some advice that you would give to either a fresh-faced chiropractic student or maybe another practitioner who's struggling in business right now? What would be some timely advice that you could give our listeners?
Well, 2 things. Obviously, I'm going to champion the cause of improving customer service. And to me, having good customer service, better customer service, improving customer service is going to enhance everything that goes on in the business. You can be the best practitioner, the best chiropractor, you technically sound, but if the customer service is off, it's going to detract from your business. So that's an area that I would really focus on. You just can't go wrong with improving your customer service, because your customer service, you're making your patients, your customers, your clients, whatever word you want to put in there, you're making them feel valuable, and everybody wants to be made to feel valuable. So that's how critical that is. The second thing that I would tell a young practitioner or somebody that's struggling or a new chiropractor coming out of school is get a coach. And not necessarily me, I'm talking Fred Schofield, I'm talking AMC. There's a lot out there. Find one that you can afford, one that's been recommended, whatever the case may be, but find a coach. And when I first got out of school, chiropractic school, my group of friends, we were all like, oh, we can do this. We know what we're doing. We never thought about having coaches. And all of us struggled when we first got out of school. And we learned from that, obviously, and moved forward with it. But a coach would have saved us a whole lot of money, time, and frustration. And that's the key. Yeah, it seems expensive at the onset, but really, if they'll look at it objectively, it's going to save them, like I said, time, money, and frustration moving forward. If they'll learn from somebody how to do it right coming out of the gate and move forward in a correct manner with the good foundation.
I know you touched on this, and I think that you're so right about the coaching. But here's the other side of the coaching. The person that's being coached has to be willing to do what is necessary. And the person that's doing the coaching has to be interested enough in order to give good action to do to the person that's the mentor or the mentee. So I think there's a lot of chemistry that goes involved with that too. And it's not like you're going to hire a coach and right out of the gates, they're going to be able, I don't see this because I've hired coaches and I haven't seen somebody being able to like jump inside Jim Chester's brain and say, do this, and you're going to be like the most effective human. I think that it has to be very symbiotic.
It does.
And there has to be enough interest from the coach to be able to tell that person, what is that one thing, and go do that. And I think that that's sometimes missed because when somebody becomes a coach, I think that they're inundated with too much connection with people and they try to spread themselves too thin. And that basically almost disqualifies them from being a good coach. And I think that you just have to be careful of how quickly you grow, and you being on the coaching side of this, I'm sure you've seen that.
Oh, absolutely. So, like you said, there's got to be that synergy between the coach and those being coached. And, the one being coached needs that, they have to have that right attitude. One, they have to have that trust and that relationship with the coach, but they have to have the willingness and the, humbleness to say, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. I need help. I'm going to listen to them, implement it, and move forward. And that's, moving when I was actually coaching chiropractors, and again, going back to me pointing fingers at me when I first got out of school too, I didn't know enough to know what I didn't know. So meaning, a coach could have approached me, but I doubt I would have worked with them because again, I didn't, I thought I had all the answers, and I was so far down that, I didn't even know that I didn't have one answer. So there's got to be some, you finally have to almost get to that breaking point or hit the bottom of the barrel of, geez, I don't know what I'm doing. I need help type situation. And that's where that really promotes that attitude from those being coached that I need help. Please help me. What do I need to do? I'm on board with whatever you tell me.
Yeah, I think that that's so important. And I know we've talked a lot of personal experience. We've talked a lot of theory. We've talked a lot of things. But if you were to say, hey, here's 3 to 5 things that you can do to improve your customer service for people to have some takeaways, what would those be?
You betcha. Simple things. First of all, smile. Smile, smile, smile. A lot of people don't smile, and they don't smile all the time. So what I told my staff is your smile is part of your uniform. So as soon as we unlock the door and those patients are coming in, I want you smiling. A smile is a universal welcome. It puts people at ease immediately. It says, hey, we're here for you. So smiling's a simple idea. Second thing is I call it book ending the experience. So if we're in a chiropractor's office, patient walks in and the staff greets him and, hey, glad to see you, sign in, whatever you need to do, we're going to be right with you. They're excited. They make that great first impression. Well, where a lot of businesses, including chiropractors, fall off is making a better and enthusiastic end perception for them. So when that patient is left, when they're about to leave and they're paying and leaving, hey, tell them, I appreciate you. Thanks for coming in. We're excited to see you when you come in next week or whatever the case may be. But leave them on a positive note. Bookend that experience. Be positive on either end of it. When they leave the office, that's the last impression they're leaving with. So you need to make it positive as well.
Don't just give them a thumbs up.
One last thing that is so simple is using, I call it manners or being polite, but using please, thank you, you're welcome in all forms of communication. On the phone, face-to-face, email, and texting. Texting is, it's huge with businesses now. text a reminder for an appointment or for a survey, but slip in, please, and thank you, and you're welcome in those, in every form of communication. Again, it makes the other person feel respected and valued when you do that. And it's so simple to do. It doesn't seem like it would be that important, but it really is.
And here's something I really appreciate you sharing that. It's going to make me better as a communicator, because something I've learned working with other people is complete cycles of action. But when you complete cycles of action, a lot of times it's this very small communication paradigm. And when you complete cycles of action, I've also seen the other side of the spectrum where somebody sends me like a library full of like a text and appreciations. I'm like, but I also think that we have to understand that there's a certain etiquette to complete a cycle of action for being not only the greeting, but the bookend. And I think that that's something that's so important for people's businesses on every level. And how many times have you talked to somebody, they're like, hey, I'm going to send you something, and they send you 25 articles. And you're like, oh. So I also think that there's an overload moment of being helpful. And I think there's an overload moment of being too conversational at the back end. So I think we just have to learn what etiquette is for a cycle of action of communication, from the greeting to the handling to the bookend. And I think that throughout our conversation today, you might become better, I might become better, Luke might become better, and our listeners will definitely learn some takeaways on how they can communicate better with all prospects and all clients, and be able to become a better customer service rep for their personal brand and their personal relationships.
I agree. So like you said, I know I've learned from what we've talked about. So, and I appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity, guys. I greatly appreciate it. And I love what you're doing for the profession. Just keep it up.
So the book is called Define and Deliver Exceptional Customer Service. You can get that at drkellyhenry.com. Dr. Kelly, are there any other promotions you have or websites you can send people to for anything else?
Or anything we didn't ask you?
I think we covered everything as far as asking. drkellyhenry.com. You can check out my programs. My programs are designed to help a business basically serve better to sell more. That's the whole idea. Businesses, whether it's chiropractic or any service-based businesses, we focus on getting customers, clients, patients, but we lose sight of keeping those clients and customers and patients. And that's what my programs are designed to do, is to improve customer service, to help keep more business in your business, because that's where exponential growth and profit comes from. So if you go to my website, you can see my programs, you can set up a call, we can talk about if what I do is going to fit with you, and I can help you out. We can move from there.
Awesome.
Well, thank you for being our guest today. I've got so much to take away from this episode with you today. I think you improved Luke and I's ability to understand customer service on the interview aspect of this. So, it's been great. And from a seasoned interviewer to somebody that's been on our show twice, it's been a real honor to have you on, and to be able to have you on our second episode together.
Well, I appreciate those comments, Jim, and the honor is all mine to be on your show. So I love the influence you have and what you're doing for the profession, both you and Luke. And so thank you so much for that. And again, the pleasure and honor is all mine to be on this show. So thank you for the opportunity again.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Kelly. And if you listeners at home want to run a podcast just like us, head on over to chirohustlemasterclass.com, get your full training, and you could be up and running just like Chiro Hustle. Dr. Kelly, thank you so much for being our guest today, and we want you to enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
You too, guys. Thank you so much.
Look forward to connecting soon.
Will do.